smiles on their faces, and they took all of those people into a holding room for the eventual World Series championship celebration. About an hour later, all of those people filed out of that holding room with shocked looks, frowns, a couple of tears as they headed back up into the press box area because nobody wanted to go into that Rangers clubhouse. Nobody expected that when Texas was up 7-4, we would be heading to a Game 7.
5 different leads they blow, including the 7-4 lead, which to me was mind-boggling. But then it went to an entirely new level after the Josh Hamilton home run in the 10th to make it 9-7. Well, you're not going to blow a lead again, a 2-run lead. But sure enough, they did. And you know, there are a number of moves that I'm sure we'll question this morning. Should Ron Washington have done that? Could Nelly Cruz have done more on that fly ball? But the bottom line is the Ranger bullpen that got him here fell apart last night and absolutely deserted them, including their stud, Neftali Feliz. I don't know if it was just the nerves of a Game 6 and a world title hanging in the balance that got him, or if it was just great Cardinal hitting. Some of it was them. They've done
this before.
Yeah, they do it all the time. It's just them. They're hard to kill. But man, the Rangers had them piled up with dirt in their grave last night, and they couldn't finish it off.
It was the greatest World Series game that I've ever seen. Now, it was not the most well-played World Series game I've ever seen, with 5 errors, some really sketchy pitching, some questionable managerial moves. It wasn't the crispest, purest game you'll ever see, but it was the greatest game I've ever seen. And that was the general consensus after the ball game was over. Lance Berkman said, quote, "If that's not the best postseason game of all time, I don't know what could top it. That was unbelievable." Most people in the clubhouse afterwards, in the media, all agreed. And I don't think it was just a knee-jerk, after-the-moment type thing. Nobody could believe what they were watching. From about the 7th inning on, no one could really grasp what was going on because there were so many twists and turns, so much dramatic flair, so many big moments, so many big hits by both of these teams. And every time you think, well, that did it, well, that didn't do it, because the next half inning, the other team did something dramatic.
You just don't know until you get that last out. And sometimes that last out is the toughest one to get. The Rangers were a strike away twice, an out away, but a strike away twice, and they couldn't get her done.
We're headed to the first Game 7 in Metroplex Finals history. The Mavericks, of course, never went to a Game 7 in either of their NBA Finals appearances. And, of course, the Rangers last year in the World Series only went 5. Stars in the Stanley Cup Finals never went 7. We're headed to a Game 7. For the first time, the Metroplex is going to feel what it's like to sit through a Game 7 with a championship on the line.
And the thing that I'm sure we'll visit several times this morning, when you lose like that, how do you come back and win the next night?
I don't know.
I mean, it's obvious, okay, well, the stakes are the same. A world title's at the line here, the next 9 innings. But when you just take a gut kick like that, how do you do it? And we've been talking about how they haven't lost 2 straight since that sweep by the Boston Red Sox in August. They can't end the season with losing 2 consecutive games, can they?
It wouldn't seem right.
It just wouldn't.
Food for thought, the 3 most recent games that involved crushing defeats in Game 6 to keep the World Series alive were the Cardinals to the Royals in 85, the Red Sox to the Mets, Bill Buckner in 86, and the Giants to the Angels in 2002. All 3 of those teams also lost Game 7. And the home team has won the past 8 Game 7s in the World Series. So the odds are stacked against the Rangers.
You know, we just had the 25th anniversary of the Buckner play the other day, and I remember thinking at the time, I hope the Rangers don't have something really spooky happen in Game 6. And when that triple went off the wall by Freeze, I thought, no, this can't be happening. It wasn't a Buckner moment, but it was a dramatic moment. And as quiet as that place was when it was 7-4, I mean, the only thing you could hear were the Ranger fans, and a good group of Ranger fans were there last night. But for the most part, that place was pretty quiet. I thought that place was going to shake down when Freese hit the walk-off home run last night.
All right, let's go through all of the big moments. Actually, we would probably need 2 shows to go through all of the big moments, but we'll hit the highlights from the 7th inning on when it was 4-4, how this game ran that twisty, turny course from the 7th to the 11th, the big moments and the what the hell happened moments for the Rangers. Coming up next here from St. Louis on the Tape.
Has tied it 7-7. Unbelievable.
That moment in the 9th inning, David Freese had not had a great World Series. He was the National League Championship Series most valuable player, putting up postseason numbers, the likes of which we've never seen before. But here in the World Series, he's been fairly quiet. He commits an error early in the game last night that cost the Cardinals. But boy, did he come up big in the 9th and then in the 11th. The hometown boy, the hero of the night for the Cardinals, who force a Game 7. Talking about it this morning here on the Dunham and Miller Show. We're in St. Louis. We were all 3 at the game last night. Stunning, absolutely stunning. As a lifelong Ranger fan, in the tunnel in the 8th inning, I'm getting chills as I see the family members come by and some familiar faces, and everybody is getting ready to celebrate. And I'm borderline giddy at the fact that I'm finally going to see this team that has given me so much pain over the years. Going to see them celebrate a championship. But I guess Ranger fans have learned in the 40 years or so that the team has been here that you take nothing for granted, that even a 7-4 lead in the 8th inning in the World Series is not safe. There are some demons that have yet to be exercised.
Yeah, you figured it just couldn't come that easily, and only the Rangers could make it like this. And let's hope it doesn't turn into the Mets over the Red Sox in '86 or something along those lines. When something that traumatic happens to you in the late innings, you just wonder what's going to happen in the next game. But yeah, we saw those people passing by, and I just thought, well, heck, I think the number on them is 89-6 this year with leads after the 8th.
Mm-hmm.
You
remember at the trade deadline, everybody suddenly started picking the Rangers to win the American League because they had fortified the bullpen.
Right.
They got the best setup man in baseball, maybe, in Mike Adams, and they already had one of the best closers in baseball in Nefty Feliz. So if you get to the 8th and you're the Rangers, this is where it all pays off. But that's not what happened last night. It's 4-4 in the top of the 7th inning. Adrian Beltre and Nelly Cruz hit back-to-back home runs. Takes the air out of Busch Stadium. It's 6-4. A wild pitch leads to another Rangers score. 7-4 going to the bottom of the 7th inning. And I'm telling you, the people in Busch Stadium, while they still held out hope, they had the looks on their faces of a defeated group of fans. I don't think anybody, when it's 7-4, thinks the Cardinals have another comeback in them.
The really loud guy who was in the section right down below us did. He was plastered, and he said, "We're still going to come back and win this game." And I was like, that guy is so drunk. There's no way the Cardinals are going to come back and win this game. And he was trying to get high fives from the people around him and really couldn't get any.
Mm-hmm.
They just figured he was 3 sheets to the wind and crazy, too.
Well, the comeback starts in the 8th inning. They're down 7-4, and Alan Craig hits a home run to make it 7-5. Then Mike Adams comes into the game, and the bases are loaded, and he gets Rafael Furcal swinging at the first pitch, which is one of the million stupid things the Cardinals did last night. maybe I'm just bitter, but I'm sorry. That team did not deserve to win that game. They did so many stupid things. The Rangers did too. But the Cardinals had some of those. They had more silly errors. They had more bad at-bats, not the least of which was for calls swinging at the first pitch when the bases are loaded. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
You make Adams throw you a couple of strikes. You wait for good pitches. That had to drive La Russa crazy. And what does he do? He grounds out. So the Rangers get out of a bases-loaded jam. And, okay, one run has scored there in the 8th, but it's still 7-5. You're still feeling pretty good. We're going to the 9th with a 2-run lead.
See, I think there is one area of you wonder about the decision, because you mentioned second half of the season, the Rangers found themselves with their bullpen, and a lot of it was Mike Adams setting up Feliz. Derek Collins starts the 8th inning.
Gives up the home run.
Yeah, he gives up the home run. Now, I know he'd been pitching well, but that's not how they've been doing it.
Right.
They've been doing it with Adams setting up Feliz. And when Holland came out there, I thought, okay, but he is kind of out of his natural habitat here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe if you're just going to look at questionable decisions, maybe you have Adams starting the 8th there.
In the 9th, the Rangers up 2, and Albert Pujols comes to the plate, and he finally gets a hit. Other than Game 3, he had been hitless in this series, but he finally delivers. Berkman walks. Then Alan Craig strikes out looking, and you think, okay, finally Feliz has it. He's got it under control.
Got 2 away.
2 away. And then David Freese, down to his last strike, hits that shot to left. Nelly Cruz goes back, seems to slow down as he approaches the warning track. It's over his head and off the wall. He misplays it. 2 runs score. The place is going insane. 7-7. And you know what? The Rangers actually kind of lucked out there in a way, because the Cardinals still, after that, had Freese on third with the triple. They could have won it right there.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking when the Rangers get out of that inning, okay, it could have been worse. The game could have been over.
Well, that thing's just, 2 feet from being a home run.
Mm-hmm.
That would have ended it there before they had to go into extra innings. All right, and here's where Feliz comes into question. As they were breaking down his pitches, he gets up 1-2 in the count, and I don't know, through maybe his own stubbornness, just thinks, well, I just need to put this one in there, an outside corner. You know, why give him a hittable pitch when you're up in the count?
Yep.
And I guess he maybe didn't get as much on his fastball as he normally does, and I don't know, they've seen Feliz a little bit. Maybe they're starting to figure out his speed.
So the Ranger fans who were present are shocked, a bit crushed, but Rangers are still alive. We're going to the extra innings and going to the 10th, and it's 7-7. And Josh Hamilton hits a 2-run home run, his first home run in 80 at-bats, and what a time for a home run. Now he's going to be the hero, right? The Rangers are going to win this game 9-7, and it's going to be Josh Hamilton. What an incredible story. But no.
Well, not so much.
We go to the bottom of the 10th, and St. Louis gets a run on Feldman. Intentional walk to Pujols with 2 strikes. Again, 2 outs and 2 strikes. They're down to their last strike again. And this time it's Lance Berkman to right center field. He scores John Jay, and the game is tied 9-9. And again, just like in the 9th, St. Louis has the winning run on third in Pujols, but they can't get him in, so we're going another extra frame.
Okay, this may be kind of a two-sided argument about Feliz, but after he pitches the 9th, did you think about him starting the 10th?
Sure.
Instead of Darren Oliver?
Sure.
And, that's another decision you bring into question. Oliver, I know, has been, for the most part, pretty effective for this team this year. He always makes me nervous. We'll talk more about the managerial moves by La Russa and Wash coming up here at 6:55. And, of course, we know what happened in the 11th. The Rangers got a base hit but couldn't push a run across, so we go to the bottom of the frame, and it's Freese again with a home run off of low to dead center. And he's the hero, and that's the ball game. He crushed it. The place went crazy. And I went on the field about 5 minutes after the game. No fans had left. No.
It was amazing. They were all staying there, still going as crazy as they had been 5 minutes earlier, waving their towels, music's blaring, fans are going crazy. We're headed to a Game 7. The Rangers blow leads of 1-0, 3-2, 4-3, 7-4, 7-5, and 9-7. And the overall series lead of 3-2. It's now 3-3. Unbelievable. What an epic last night here in St. Louis. 626 on Sports Radio 1310 The Ticket.
The Cardinals win it 10-9. Unbelievable. Phenomenal. Just fantastic.
Sounds like he's going to say something else there.
I know. The phenomenal.
You know what? That was a pretty good call.
That was a good call.
I like his voice, and that was good.
Now, does Nadell do all the get up, go?
No, he's a homer, but I've enjoyed listening to those guys the last week. He and John Rooney.
Mike Shannon's a homer.
Yeah, Mike Shannon and John Rooney do the Cardinals games on radio.
Well, Joe Buck had a very understated, and he's getting a lot of praise for this, I've seen on various websites. Let's listen to Joe Buck's call.
Freeze hits it in the air to center. We will see you tomorrow night.
And then that was
Wow,
it.
that's pretty cool. That's an homage to his dad.
Yeah.
Made
Exact
the same
call that his dad made in Game 6 of the 1991 World Series.
Pretty cool.
Very cool.
Bringing in that generational thing in that.
Along with Trafico. And I'll be here. But right now, here's the Cobra.
Here he is, the Cobra. Here's Cobra.
Hey, Dill.
Well, this sucks. This absolutely sucks.
Oh, what a day. What a day.
This has been... I'm glad that I had stuff to do this morning. Otherwise, I think my brain would have exploded, and I would have just gone into a deep, dark state of depression. This has just been the weirdest 20 hours or so.
You could have called me. I would have brought you a Whopper Jr.
I needed a Whopper Jr. this morning.
Would have made it all right, little buddy.
Damn, what a day. What a day.
A day indeed.
I have not read anything. I have not watched anything concerning what happened last night. I have not listened to this radio station that I'm such a big fan of for 1 second outside of the time that I put this headset on.
All I know is what is.
I know what happened last night, and I don't need to know anymore.
And what is it's left us on the verge of something absolutely monumental. Either way. I mean, we are at a tipping point tonight.
Yep.
A true tipping point.
Now, you're right, though. One way or the other, there's going to be one hell of a story to tell down the road.
There sure is.
Good golly, Miss Molly.
Yeah. And now it falls to us to try and talk people through this, try and get everybody's head right, except the only problem is...
I don't know how to do that.
Yeah, my head's not right.
No.
I just know a couple of things. There are a couple things that I'm clinging to, and that's probably going to be the thrust of the data that you're going to get from me today. That's probably going to be the message from me to the masses today. Now, yours may be very, very different. I don't know, because we haven't had a lot of banter betwixt ourselves about this either.
No.
But
hat on. And I know you haven't mentioned this yet, and I'm assuming this is what you're hanging your hat on, is the back-to-back thing, that this is a team that hadn't lost back-to-back games.
No, there's more to it than that, but go ahead.
There is? Okay.
Yeah.
Because that's all I got. Yeah, that's all I got. I can't imagine. If somehow this team comes back and wins this game, then they are more manly than I ever thought. And this is, like Bill James said, one of the great teams of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know how you do it. I don't know how any group of human beings can come back from a game like that and win. And you look in the annals of sports, it doesn't happen very often. When you lose games like that, a game 6.
Mm-hmm.
You come back and you get your act together somehow, some way, and win. Recent history, at least.
Yeah.
You have to do what I think that this team is doing right now, and that is simplify the drama that happened last night. Because in any other setting outside of the World Series or a playoff game, that's just a bad game. And people, I did watch a little MLB Network today, and I have read some stuff since this morning. And the people that want to rip wash, and I know we'll probably get into some nuts and bolts and X's and O's of some of the decision making, but you put this in context. This team handed the ball to their elite closer, a rookie of the year, an all-star with a 2-run lead, and he didn't get it done.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line.
I agree.
It's just a game that didn't work out for him.
But the thing is, it's easy to say that, and I think it's been real easy for these guys to forget certain games and not worry about losing Tampa Game 1, not worrying about losing, in Detroit Game 5 or whatever it was. Really easy to forget about losing Game 1 of the World Series. This is different. Well, and we all know it's different. I mean, let's not try. Hang on, Danny. Hang on. Let's not act like it isn't, because this is as bad. This is potentially, depending on what happens tonight, it's the worst loss in the history of this city, and it's not even close. You give me the Ice Bowl, you give me the catch, you give me the 2 Steelers Super Bowls, you give me 2006, you give me the Stanley Cup in 2000. You combine all those, and it doesn't come close to what happened last night. It's the worst.
It makes you see kind of what a charmed sports life we've led around here.
Yes.
To have so few losses that just, tear your insides out of you like this.
Like you're saying. I mean, look, this is not. I'm not like you as far as my Ranger fandom goes, but this has hit me harder than anything that I've ever been involved in sports-wise. And like you said, you named off national championship losses and Cowboy games that would wipe me just straight on the mat. This is worse, and I've never felt this way in my life when dealing with a sporting event, and I almost feel like a queen talking about it. But what happened last night, my kids will never experience something like that, ever. You know why? Because no other team can get that close. Yeah, they'll be like, well, in 2033 when we were at the 1-foot line and had 4 chances to get in and couldn't do it to win the Super Bowl, I still say that's not that close. It's not as close as being 1 strike away twice with a 2-run lead.
Yeah.
And 1 strike, man, 1 strike. This city will never experience that again. Now, if they win tonight, it'll be a footnote to one of the great games in the history of the World Series. But if they lose, this will define this baseball team, this baseball franchise, until they reverse it. This is it. This will be the defining moment of the Texas Rangers, and unless they win a World Series, it always will be.
All right, here is what I'm hanging my hat on. I'm hanging it on the 2 losses in a row thing. I'm hanging it on what I've seen from this team all year, the makeup of this team, the fabric of this team, which I've just been so overwhelmed with all year. I'm counting on that to hold sway once again tonight. And I'm also hanging my hat on my newfound theory, my newfound sports theory, that players don't really much care about how wins and losses come down. This was developed in the NBA playoffs this year.
With Portland?
Yes, with Portland. I thought that surely after Portland came back from 23 points down, I thought they were going to win that series anyway, and I thought now surely the Mavericks are done. And what happened?
Yeah.
That's for us to stress over. That's the difference between fans and players.
Right.
That's the thing that separates us from them.
Right.
Obviously, in natural ability and God-given talent.
And I got to thinking about all that. Okay, I sat here and agonized as I watched them blow a 23-point lead in this thing against a team that I thought was going to take them out anyway. And yet, here they are. They continue their playoff run. They beat Portland. They go to Los Angeles, and we sit there and watch in astonishment as they take care of the mighty Lakers and send that crowd home, which was glorious. And they go on and on and on, and I keep going back to that Portland game, and that is exactly the conclusion that I came to. You know, that's the only way I could rationalize that, because while games like that and games like this last night just are, you know, ice picks through the end of the chest for us, it's not that way for players. I don't know why that is. Maybe because as they've made their way up through high school, college, the minor leagues, whatever the case may be, they've been involved in any number of games like that before. You know, it's where sometimes it works out for you, sometimes it works out against you, but to them, it's just a game. It's just a game where things either go right or they don't. And last night, they didn't.
I'm sorry.
You don't buy any of that?
No, I see where you're coming from. I totally do. But, man, yesterday was so different.
I know.
From losing your high school game.
I know.
Or losing to Portland after a 23-point lead. This is like blowing a 56-point lead. I mean, it's way worse. And plus, that was the first round of the NBA
See, that's
playoffs.
the thing, though. I don't think there are any degrees with this thing. I don't think this is way worse or way better or anything. It just is.
Then they're not human beings. If they're not affected by that, that's my biggest problem with what's going to go on tonight, is that there's not many people out there who give the Rangers a chance. There really aren't, and rightfully so for the same reason. How can you come back from that? How can you, as a living, breathing human being, and I understand that these are competitors and they do this for a living and it's every day and they've had games, you know, where they've lost that they've been able to forget about. How do you forget that? It's so different.
Yeah, it is, and for you and me, it's impossible.
And we're going to be looking at a game, you know, on down the line here that people say is the greatest World Series game ever. Well, it's the worst game for us.
Yes.
It's the worst game in the history of the sport for us. And those guys played it. We just watched it. And you know, I always hear from guys that used to play that as upset as you are, the players are twice as pissed. I think David Volk told me that, our buddy that went to Nebraska and was our fighter. He was like, you know, you guys get upset over certain things. He goes, just imagine what that team is feeling inside that locker room. A game that they should have won. They don't even know what to do.
After 162 games, Corby, and the DS, the League Championship Series, and a Game 7 in a World Series, if we as fans think that group of people, that group of men in there are going to allow the way they lost last night to affect the way they play tonight, we are fools.
I hope you're right.
I know I'm right. They may lose tonight, Corby, but I don't think they're going to go out there and lay down and get their asses handed to them.
No, of course not. No, I don't think they're going to lay down. But I think somewhere in the recess of their brain, there's going to be that little.
If something goes wrong, it's going to be, here we go again.
Or man, God, we were so effing close.
I don't think so, man.
I don't think it will either.
I don't think that's going to be the case. I don't think if Murphy's up there with an 0-2 count, he's going to be like, oh man, I can't do this. I'm not good enough. They're better than me.
No. I don't think that'll ever enter their minds either. But look, if we were on the let's put it this way. If this happened just the reverse, and we just saw the greatest Ranger game ever, obviously. This is people in St. Louis are calling this is it. This is, with 10 World Series championships, that's the greatest game ever. That's what they're saying up there. We'd be saying the same thing. And the confidence level that we would have right now in that team winning a Game 7 would be unbelievable.
Well, that's another thing they're going to have to fight through, but I think they can, man. I think they can. I think the makeup and the fabric of this team, as we've seen all year, is so strong that I think they're going to. I think my theory is going to hold some water here tonight.
Well, I hope you're right, and like I was saying earlier, I just don't want this to be. I mean, look, we had a love fest yesterday, And I threw out the warning a couple of times. We're setting ourselves up. Let's be very careful here.
Yes.
We are setting ourselves up.
Yes.
And Lord have mercy, I had no idea how we were setting ourselves up for the ultimate heartbreak. And within that love fest yesterday, the one thing that I don't want to happen, because I truly do respect those guys a ton, I don't want this to be their moment. And it very well may be.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about 10 years from now, because I don't know when they're going to get back, you know? And I don't want to be Debbie Downer here, but, you know, we could be looking at a group of guys 5 years from now that aren't here anymore, who look back at this, and they may go win with somebody else and say, that was our moment, that was our time. And our lives are defined by being by one strike away.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's not like Bill Bucknery where we boo them out of town because there's no reason to. They didn't do anything wrong. They got beat. But, you know, I don't want
all
that.
All of this doesn't go on to one guy.
No, not at all. But as a team, yeah, and I don't want that. I don't want that to be replayed every time a World Series Game 6 rolls around, you know, which it will be.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this is beyond anything that as big as we feel this is right now, if they lose tonight, it's bigger. It's way bigger. So
yeah, that doesn't, and that, you know, is regardless of what happens tonight.
That's my fear. Seems like what this team has to overcome.
Yes. It's a very perilous situation.
It's still an elimination game for them, too.
You're right. You're right, Danny.
It's the last game of the 2011 baseball season.
Of the last 13 occasions in which a major league team had a 3-2 playoff series lead, then lost Game 6 on the road, 12 of those teams also lost Game 7.
That is daunting.
Most.
No doubt about it.
The only exception, the 06 Cardinals, who lost Game 6 of the NLCS at Shea, but won Game 7 when Yachty hit a 2-run homer in the ninth. They also take a look back at the most recent instances when a team blew a late-inning lead in a pivotal World Series game and whether they were ever able to recover from it. And they took samples from World Series in 2002, 2001, 96, 93, 91, 86, as we all know of, 85, 80, and 75. Now, they point to the 75 series as the one good omen for the Rangers because we all know about that.
Mm-hmm.
And as a little kid, as a 5-year-old, I was fully aware, you know, in the coming years of Game 6. Game 6 meant one thing. And I thought that the Red Sox won the World Series.
No. Many are surprised to find out, you know, as they get a little older and learn a little bit more about the entirety of that World Series, that no, that series was won by the Big Red Machine, despite the fact that, you know, the thing everybody talks about is the Carlton Fisk home run.
And the thing is, I don't remember one thing about Game 7. I don't remember seeing anything about it, and it was a dramatic game in the ninth inning.
Yes.
You know, it was tied, and Pete Rose and Tony Perez got a couple of singles, and Joe Morgan drove them home to win the game. And then they closed it out in the bottom of the inning. But as they point out here, that was what is known as the Big Red Machine, 4 Hall of Famers, 108 wins that year. You kind of get it. You get that. And I'm not saying the Rangers can't reach that feat, but it would be pretty lofty goal to have a Big Red Machine team.
Yeah, it would, but at the time, what were those guys?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
At the time, those guys were it was a team with 4 really good players on it.
8 times, though, since 1975. Since that moment, a World Series team has blown a late lead that would have clinched a world championship or put them in the driver's seat to win one. Only one of those teams, the 2001 Diamondbacks, rebounded to win the series. They had home field, though, in 6 and 7, and they had Schilling and Randy Johnson pitching for them in 6 and 7. So of all the teams that blew what their teams thought was to be, you know, just a cataclysmic a loss of epic proportions, they're the only ones who came back. And that was what was their closer's name? Kim?
Byung-Hyun Kim.
Yeah, who blew
Right.
2 or 3.
Yeah, he's the guy who gave up homers to, I believe, Tino Martinez and Scooter Brocious on consecutive nights.
Yeah, right. But they had Johnson and Schilling to bail him out in 6 and 7. So, I don't think that they were looking for research that would have, made their point that these types of games are tough to overcome. It's just that's exactly what it is. They are tough to overcome. You look at history, and it's rare. It's rare that you have it right there. You're reaching out. I mean, you can taste it almost. Everyone was holding hands in that bar. It was like a church service almost last night. It was there for the taking, and then it's gone. And to come back and recover from that, it's very difficult.
And, of course, the common bit of data that got out there last night in the immediate aftermath of the game is daunting enough as is. That being that the last 8 teams to play Game 7 at home have all won.
Oh, God, I didn't even see that.
Yeah, you have to go back to the 1979 Pirates, who won on the road in Baltimore in Game 7. That was the last time a road team has won a Game 7. That's daunting enough right there. But add in all this other stuff, and you know what? I still believe the Rangers are going to do it.
I've never seen so much data support one team.
Yes.
And then you look at the ump tonight. Have you seen this?
No.
What's the ump's name? Help me out here, America, back there.
Is it a J name?
Yeah, I can't remember his name. Anyway.
Jerry Lane?
Yes, Jerry Lane.
Oh, okay.
8-1. The Cardinals are 8-1 with Jerry Lane with a 2 ERA. The Rangers are 1-6 this year with Jerry Lane with a 5.6 or something like that.
Man,
I'm telling you, if the Rangers win tonight, it's so much. I think we'll respect this team so much more, even if they would have won last night with the Josh home run. Let's say the Josh home run would have ended it.
Mm-hmm.
If they can win this game tonight with all this evidence that's stacked against them, I'm going to respect them more. And you know what? I'm going to cry like a little baby tonight if they win this game.
That is just a mountain of stuff going against them. But it's all data. It's all numbers.
And it has happened. I mean, like with Grantland here, they say only the 2001 Diamondbacks or the 75 Reds. So it's there.
It's not a place. It's not a place you want to be, but it has happened.
Yes, it's there, and they can look right across at that team in front of them. Who a lot of those guys were on that 06 team.
Yes.
Who ended up being able to come back too. So I don't know. I'm sports bum though. I got to tell you, I'm in a real bad spot.
I'm sports bum too, but I still like what I saw of this team so much that I cling to the belief that it's going to happen tonight.
I hope you're right.
I hope I am too. All right.
See, that's what I was trying, and I swear you put it correctly, because people were asking me about Mike last night. We were watching the game in Fort Worth, Craig, after our remote, and people asked me what you were like after the game, and I'm like, he had this really far away look in his eyes, like, but I did too. I mean, it's just like, what just happened? It's probably just like, I think it's just like coming home from war. That's what me and Mike were feeling last night.
That's right, we were.
Just like Nam.
We fought. Yeah, It was like Nam all over again, man. Those were the toughest days ever.
Flashbacks and everything.
Yeah. Yes. So how was the David Hulse gangbang?
I wasn't a part of that, mainly because he's not a part of the team. So.
Right.
But, hey, this will be good news for Rangers fans. I was watching the NBC local broadcast here, and they had their own version of Laura Miller. It was their female weatherman, or weatherwoman, whatever you would call her, female weather thing. And
she hot?
She said no, and she said, "All right, forecast for tonight is perfect. Temperatures in the upper 40s, no wind, clear skies, and forecast for Sunday for that parade, 60 degrees and sunny."
Uh-oh.
Awesome.
God.
So if you believe in the jinx thing, maybe they've got their own version of Laura Miller.
But didn't Fox 4 offset that by tweeting ahead of time that the Rangers had won the World Series last night?
Yeah, and then did you see their correction?
Yes.
It said, correction, St. Louis has come back to tie the game, and we're going into overtime.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my God.
Wait a minute. Fox 4 tweeted that?
Yes.
They sent out a news alert.
Right. But the Rangers had won the World Series.
Oh, my God.
Did Clarice tweet that or what?
And then they corrected
I think
it by
Heather
saying
Hagg
going
did.
to overtime.
Yeah, overtime.
Wow. Well, I really hope they avoid overtime tonight with these bullpens being worked. Man, last game or game 5, just the importance of defense.
We talked about that last night.
Yeah, just the importance of defense, and then we see 5 errors, for both clubs last night. Michael Young makes 2 crucial errors, and you have to have his bat, and he's once again going to be playing first base for this thing tonight. And
I think they hurt themselves with that move last night.
Sure did.
You're talking about taking Young out early, or
getting him out of there just because it seemed like they were pissed at him.
Yeah,
we talked about that, Mike. Maybe it forced his hand a little early. Wash went to it too soon.
Yeah, I think he did. I don't think there's any question about that.
Because Young was supposed to bat in the 8th inning, and instead you have suddenly Mitch the Bitch is hitting cleanup for you,
and that goes in the line of moves that don't make sense, where you hang on to certain players too long and you have a quick leash and a quick hook with the others. So.
And I know he'd been having a tough night out there and everything, and he wasn't having a tough night. He was having an awful night in the field. Mm-hmm. But at that time of the game, you've got to just hope that nothing worse happens out there. That maybe this is just, he can get you through the rest of the game without any further disasters. But you need his bat at that time of the game, man.
Yeah. And something else is getting lost in the shuffle from all the insanity of last night was just the brain fart by Elvis Andrus. Instead of running to second or just quickly throwing the ball to first with 2 outs, they allow an infield hit in the 8th inning.
Oh, my God.
Man,
what a costly mistake, man.
That was such a mental error, and, it's one of those things that just puts the heart of the Cardinals lineup in the 9th, and if they don't make that mistake, and if maybe they make a pitching change earlier in that inning, who knows? Maybe we're not even doing a pregame show right now.
Molina's the runner at first base, and even if Kinsler's playing them to pull, you have to trust that Kinsler can beat him to the bag instead of taking his time to throw it across the diamond.
Well, you saw the play that both Elvis and Kinsler made on the bunt last night, where the bunt goes over Beltre's head charging in. Elvis does a great job to back it up, and Kinsler has to book it just to get over to first.
That was a very impressive play for Elvis to break off his route to third to cover third base.
They were doing the wheel route.
Yeah. Well, you guys want to know the difference between Torrealba catching for Matt Harrison and what it means for Napoli behind the plate?
I'd love to.
Torrealba caught him. They caught almost the exact same amount of games, 14 start seats, and Napoli means a 2.6 ERA for Harrison.
So how are you doing today?
I guess I'm kind of in denial. I just don't know how to feel. I'm not heartbroken like I thought I would be.
Right.
But I don't have very much will to live.
Well, why would that be any different than any other day, though?
That's true.
I think that, going into last night, and I've tried to be as optimistic as possible during the show yesterday.
I put on a smiley face all day yesterday.
It took me until about 5:30 to shake the sports hangover from Game 6 because I'd felt like the Rangers were good enough and quite possibly better than the Cardinals.
I still think they are.
Just because they were able to go to a Game 7. They put themselves in a position by going up 3-2 that they had the luxury of playing 2 elimination games. Now, only one of them involved themselves being the victim of elimination. And I had myself talked into the idea that Game 7, anything can happen. Maybe they got it out of their system the night before. The avoidance of back-to-back losses for the better part of a month or 2 months. And just thought that maybe the breaks would fall their way, that they would get some... that's what it's all about when you get to a World Series. It's such a small sample size of, 7 games that usually the team that gets the most breaks and takes advantage of them is the team that wins, unless there's a clear, decided advantage as far as talent goes, which I really didn't see between these two teams. I thought these teams were very closely matched. And essentially having any hope in last night for the Rangers to win, that's essentially all that it was hope. And you can't lose that. But as I was walking to my car to go meet you, to go watch the game, I asked myself the question, if I had to put down a bet right now, if I was forced to make a, substantial financial investment into the outcome of the World Series, and I had to be honest with myself, I would have picked the Cardinals to win last night. And that is not me being a bad Ranger fan, but that's me being a realistic observer of baseball. There's a reason why there is baseball history. There's a reason why statistics are statistics, and that's why we use them and talk about them and reflect on them. The odds are the odds, and the odds that the Rangers were going to win a Game 7 were decidedly stacked against them, and it didn't happen. And we're sad. It sucks. I think that most of my angst was put out there after Game 6 and fighting through the ebb and flows and the ups and downs of that game. My heart and my soul were just, I felt like a beaten man all day yesterday because of Game 6. That was the killer. And I heard Jake Z and Newberry talking about, what this team needs to do to move forward, and I'm sure that we can get into a lot of that maybe later on in the show. But rather than lamenting on decisions that were made in Game 6, and granted, yes, there were some very questionable things that, from the managerial side, not just Wash, but coaching staff as well, that you can call into question, but they handed the ball to their closer in the ninth inning with a 2-run lead. I don't know what else you can ask for. And whatever decision-making got them there, it goes out the window at that point, because you were in the World Series with a premier closer, Rookie of the Year, an all-star, and you hand the ball to him, you expect him to get the job done. And he didn't. Now, for whatever reason, you want to talk about Nelly Cruz's positioning in the outfield, sure. But Neftali Feliz is supposed to get you 3 outs in any way possible, and he didn't do it. After that, yes, there were some things that were decided that you can call into question. But it didn't work out. And they lose by 1 run in Game 6. St. Louis forces a Game 7. And I'm telling you, you cannot go into a Game 7 against Chris Carpenter and put 26-year-old Matt Harrison on the mound and expect to win. Bottom line, I don't care if Carpenter pitched on 3 days rest. I don't care what he has one game where he's done that before and he didn't do well. Well, that game was not Game 7 of the World Series. And that guy dug deep. He found it. He is an ace. He's a stud. And he is what the Rangers do not have. And that's what they needed last night. They needed a horse. They needed a stud, a number 1 starter. This team does not have an ace. It does not have a number 1 starter. It's got a lot of 2s and 3s. And can you win a World Series with that? Yeah, you can. But I don't think you can win a Game 7 when you're going up against a stud. And you can say what you want about how this team did the unthinkable without Cliff Lee. How they went and got a great third baseman to shore up that corner. And that dude is amazing. I love Beltre. He is a massive reason why they got to where they were yesterday. But without a guy to go toe-to-toe in a heavyweight fight, without an ace, without a Cliff Lee, without a CC Sabathia, without a Chris Carpenter, you're going to lose a Game 7. That's the bottom line. and you want to talk about moving forward, that's the need that needs to be addressed, among many others. But there is not a number one. There's not an ace on this team right now. I don't care what C.J. Wilson thinks about himself. I don't care about the start that Derek Holland had in the World Series. There's not an ace on this team, and you're not going to win a World Series without one. Not a Game 7 when you're going against somebody else's.
No, and I think Wash, as much as I love Wash and as much as I appreciate his feel for the game, I don't think he necessarily changed the way he manages to suit the postseason. I think he managed in the postseason. I mean, certainly you're quicker to make moves with your bullpen, as we saw. But I don't think that he went against his common judgment to go balls out to win a Game 7. You know what I'm saying? I mean, obviously, Carpenter is an ace. But everybody knew that he was going to go on 3 days rest. It doesn't matter that he tanked the last time he did or that he's hardly ever done it before. That's what was going to happen. And yet Wash was stubborn in saying, nope, it's Matt's time, it's Matt's turn in the rotation, and I've got my faith in Matt. And God bless him for having faith in his players, but at some point, don't you have to take a step back and say, what is going to give us the best chance to win the game? Would it have been to start CJ? Would it have been to not use Holland last night and go ahead and use Holland to start Game 7?
Well, Wash obviously threw the kitchen sink at him in Game 6. And I don't fault him for that, because you can't worry about a Game 7 when you have a lead, when you're up, when your team scratches and your offense scratches and fights to give you a lead back that you've lost 4 times, 5 times. You can't keep Holland in reserve in Game 6 if you think that he's your best option to win that game. He did everything he could. Did he make mistakes? Of course he did. In retrospect, you can look back at numerous things that he did that were questionable. But I don't blame one man. I don't blame Wash for this. And as the promo says, I'm getting sick of that's the way baseball go. But I mean, I can't look at one thing and point at that and go, that was the definable moment of where you lost this, and lay it at his feet. I can't find that moment. It was a collaborative effort. And they ran into a very hot team as the season ended and the playoffs began and crescendoed into last night. The Cardinals got hotter and hotter and hotter, and the Rangers got cold.
Yeah, the key to their success in the division series and the ALCS was their bullpen, and their downfall in the World Series was their bullpen.
Exactly.
And you got to chalk that up to not only a Cardinals team getting hot, but a Rangers bullpen getting tired.
Yeah. A lot of innings pitched, man. Cardinals had the same problem, though. You know, they pitched damn near as many or not more innings than the Rangers did in the playoffs. But what it boiled down to, I think, was the things that we were concerned with in the beginning. National League ball, home field advantage, La Russa being a more seasoned veteran manager. People forget Wash is young at this. This is, he's a baseball lifer, but he's only been managing for a few years, and there's growing pains that are involved. But those are the things that killed us. You know, the fact that they had an ace, I think that plays huge into this. Chris Carpenter is a badass, and
a jerk.
I disagree with you. I've seen several interviews with that guy, and he just seems nothing but a very pleasant, nice, honest, genuine person. That's what I've been able to get out of.
I guess I'm referring to his on-field persona. I appreciate that he's intense and a competitor, but he just comes off as an a-hole.
Well, he's the enemy. If there's a number of guys on this pitching staff, CJ, Derek Holland, if they were on somebody else's team, if they were on the other side and you're watching the antics that they're pulling during the World Series, you're hating their guts 10 times worse than you are Carpenter's.
Right. Well, and I was thinking about that, and maybe we can talk about this on the other side.
Let's do that.
I was thinking about, I guess, the perception of the Ranger team versus the perception of the Cardinals team, and who would you want on your team? Who would they want on their? There are really only a handful of guys on that team that I could say I was happy that they won.
Okay.
Pujols, obviously, because he's a class guy and he's their franchise. I think David Freese is a good kid. I'd like to have him on my team. And Mott, their closer, I think he's a class act. Other than that, I pretty much can't stand that team.
Not a big Berkman fan, are you?
Hate Berkman.
Furcal? You don't like Furcal?
Furcal is a douche.
Alan Craig? Don't like him?
He's so smarmy. Granted, he's good. And we were talking last night that if the Rangers had pulled off the improbable last night, one of the questions La Russa probably would have been facing is, why didn't you get Craig more at bats?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, don't like Craig. Obviously don't like Carpenter. Holiday. I mean, they are an annoying bunch of guys. And thinking about the flip side of that and thinking about our Rangers, obviously somebody from a neutral or St. Louis perspective is going to think CJ's a moron. They're probably not going to like Holland, as you mentioned, just because he tries too hard to be goofy.
Yeah. 8 1/3 2-hit shutout baseball does a lot to compensate for goofiness, though.
Right.
Because if you can back up being a dork with really good performance, it does. I think it does garner you an amount of respect.
But really, I think
I hear what you're saying.
I think the only really divisive guys on this team are CJ and Ian Kinsler. I think those are the only guys that are flat out hateable by other baseball observers. I think we have a really likable team.
I think so. It's hard to hate somebody like Josh Hamilton or Craig Gentry, and Napoli kind of became the lovable dullard,
right,
of the playoffs. Yeah, I can't really think of anybody that who doesn't love Craig Gentry. He's good.
who has an opinion on Craig Gentry? But you know what I'm saying. It's unfortunate that this team now is seen as the Buffalo Bills of baseball. That's already what everybody's saying.
Who's saying that? I have not heard that once.
It's in Kalishaw's column. I heard it on MLB Network last night.
I think looking back on the thing is when you think about the Red Sox in 1986, and I've heard comparisons. There's one play that is the kind of the iconoclast of that whole experience, and that is obviously the Bill Buckner error at first base. I don't think that people are going to look at the 2010 or 2011 Rangers as choke artists or as World Series fodder. I think the focus is going to be on the teams that won and the magnificent momentum and runs that they had last year with the Giants because of their starting pitching. And this year with the Cardinals as, God, just scrapping and doing everything they possibly could do to win. And I hate that label, that tag, Team of Destiny. I know it's been said a lot, and I've used it a lot. But, man, when a team is on a roll like